How you doing, Creon? Thanks for coming on to have a little chat, coaches chat. Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, appreciate you having me, Atiba. It's been fun watching the other shows.
Good, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's something that Sarah really had the idea, kind of threw it out there, and we just kind of went with it. But it seems to have some good feedback. And for me, I enjoy it because we kind of talked earlier and said we don't really get to communicate during the season, obviously, because there's distance in us and we don't really have a downtime where we're all together or too many events where all the coaches are together. So it's nice that in this time we're making the most of it with just reaching out and just having a good conversation, and hopefully that continue even after all this stuff is done.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's part of our culture that's kind of like basketball culture within England that we don't have, where coaches get a chance just to kind of like bounce ideas off each other, share stories. And so hopefully this will be the start of something good.
Yeah. So firstly, just we don't really we know each other through basketball, but just tell me a little bit about yourself, a little bit, like where you come from and your history and how you got to kind of being here where you are now.
Yeah, well, first of all, obviously with the surname Raftopoulos, everybody kind of like straight away goes, okay, that's why he's in basketball, it's Greek. But I'm originally from Zimbabwe. That's where I grew up. Came out of a basketballing family. I think according to a lot of feedback that I've got, my dad was probably one of the best basketball players, if not the best basketball player in the country. So came from that kind of like stock. And more or less moved to the UK when things were changing in Zimbabwe. I had Kalen at a really young age, and I felt that in order for him to have a better opportunity in life was time for us to make the move. And then that's kind of like what brought me to this beautiful island.
and this whole time, you're playing in Zimbabwe, and then so what was that for basketball wise? How does that look?
So actually an interesting one on that, because we grew up with a big American influence. A lot of there were these tours. I don't know if they're called Athletes in Action, Venture for Victory, like Christian groups and so forth. Mm-hmm. And they always visited Zimbabwe and brought coaches who did clinics and so forth. And on the other side of it, there was also a lot of the former Yugoslavia people who had refugees from the war had also come to Zimbabwe. Right. So being a basketball person, I was fortunate enough to learn from American coaches and also learn from the European style, which was so different to the American to the American style of stuff. And that kind of like got my blood flowing, obviously coming from a basketball family also. Mm-hmm. That made a big difference. But one of the things that was really interesting for us was our high schooling basketball was very similar to that of the American style. Okay. And so when I played high school, it was kind of like similar for you. It was like 500 to 1,000 people watching us play a high school game, and it meant a lot, and then it moves on. You play for my country, and then you go into the bigger arena. So you play in front of like 5,000, 6,000 people and so forth. So it was interesting for me because I had done that, and then I came to England and went to a couple of places, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like, we're the people. Yeah, it's like, what's happening here? So Zimbabwe, obviously, it was difficult for us to qualify for stuff because it was done regionally, and we actually had Angola in our region,
right?
And so our national team pregame preparation was a week-long camp. Mm-hmm. Angola's preparation was send them to America to play all the Division I schools for a month or two, and then play against them. So that was interesting, and a lot of learned a lot from it. But we actually played against the Angolan team that played against the Dream Team.
Right.
So they had that swag. Like, listen, we played against USA, so play against you guys is absolutely nothing, And they gave us some butt kickings often, but yeah. So Zimbabwean basketball, I would say, was pretty up there. Spectator wise, coaching wise, we had good coaches, but obviously, with the problems that happened there, things just kind of like changed and ended up coming downhill.
So when you came over, I know originally what I was told about you through third person when you first kind of got the job down at Surrey was a lot of development stuff. You were kind of key in a lot of development, travel teams, getting guys maybe scholarships or just getting to the next level. That kind of thing was kind of what I was told about before I met you or coached against you. So when you made that transition, what did you kind of take with you from that level to the pros when you started coaching at the BBL level?
So just to rewind it a little bit, it was interesting because I was in T side, and when I was in T side, one of my kind of like coaching mentors was the late Tony Hansen, who had played at the University of Connecticut, came from the same town as Rob Penastro, Danbury, Connecticut. And he gave me the opportunity. I came to play, got injured. Long story short, he put me in the academy. That's where I met, first coached Kieran Achara, and my second kid is actually named after Kieran because when I knew Kieran when he was 19, I was like, this guy going to be something special, just the way Kieran carried himself and so forth. So from that, I then ended up coaching pro to semi-pro in T side. Yeah. And Atiba was tough. Like, when you come from Zimbabwe and like you got people who sometimes never had sneakers or their own basketballs and stuff, and that I wasn't in that position. I was fortunate. But we used to help out a lot of players. Yeah. And then I come to this thing and it's like these lovely courts and so forth. We used to train outside most of the time, And then there was a kind of like an entitlement, which has obviously grown over the years. And that was very difficult for me to be around on a regular basis. I'm not saying all the players, but there was a lot of guys that were entitled. They only gave me 2 pairs of Nikes. They should have given me 4. I'm just like, wow, okay. So when I finished coaching there, I came. My family was down south, so I came. I was like, okay, that's it. I've done my stint. I'm coming, but. Going into Guildford, I was like, okay, I only want to work with kids now. I want to get their mindsets right and so forth. And that's how I ended up being at the Guildford Heat. And at that same time, my plan was also, I love the idea of AAU basketball, and we never had it. We don't have that over here. And so I, because of Kalen also and a lot of his friends, I started the tours, and we managed to get into Florida's big tournaments, which was like, the Super Showcase and the Nationals. Even though we never played qualifying tournaments, they knew our talent level, so they were happy to take us. And
what was your impression when you got there? How'd you take it in? How many years did you go? First off, how long did you do we did about 4 years of it. Okay. So we played against. Big Andre Drummond. We played against Austin Rivers. We played against Lance Stevenson. A lot of pros that the guys got to play against. And it's funny you should say that because for me it was about exposure and the kids learning about stuff. And so I remember the first game we get there and we get off you get those, I don't know what you call them, vans, the big van and stuff. And everybody comes off. And, Tony Hansen had sort of some Nike sponsorship, like all the other travel teams. So everybody was looking good. But we actually had a 6'11", a 6'10", 6'9", 6'8". We looked the deal. We were like, legit, wow. Yeah. And as we walk in, obviously the coaches, like straight away, they see the size. So now they like following us. Man, we go into this game. I remember we were playing, I think, a team from Tennessee. They had a group of about 5'8", 5 foot, maybe even 5'6" kids. The tallest player might have been 6'2". Center.
And yeah, and AAU, there's no shot clock. It's just like it's high
school America, period.
Yeah. So we went down, and then they just started passing the ball around and stuff. And long story short, man, we got our butts kicked. We got our butts kicked, and there was a lot of swag in the group. But I tell you something, when they got onto that bus after the first game, I never had to say anything to them.
Humble
they were humbled. And but it, as the trip went on, we started winning a couple of games, but I still have guys up to this day who say that was one of the best basketball experiences. It also helped them decide how important education was and having options, away from basketball. One of the players we had that first year, we had obviously Kalen. We had Khalil Irving.
Okay.
Khalil. So Khalil was on that, and Teddy Okafor, who's now obviously the GB point guard. So we had that kind of like level of talent, like on the team. And those are the kids that at that time they weren't play. They were an age group below England, but they were on the border. So yeah, but they learned a lesson. They learned quick. So.
And when you coached it, how did you feel? Did you over the years, did you adjust what you did when you went? You just kept doing the same thing? Did you taking those into consideration? Did you feel like you had to coach a little bit different in America opposed to England? Because there's not many people have that experience over here coaching that level age group in America and as well as in the UK. So it's interesting to think about how you did it.
So in Zimbabwe, I was from a young age as like basketball. Like I was a referee. I refereed games to make a little bit of money. I learned how to do table officiating, and then I coached. And I was lucky enough to coach at two of the better high schools, and I actually won a national championship as a coach at age 18. So I'd learned a little bit of coaching, but in Zimbabwe, it was off of, as I said, the coaches you came in contact with and reading these books. Now reading a book about how Bobby Knight carried on was not really going to help you anywhere else. Although I did take some of that, and I learned so early, Atiba, I got kicked out of games. I had to learn quickly how to kind of like compose myself. So going to America, where it was a totally different style of play, I had to adjust on the fly. Telling the kids, hey, listen, you got to play to the end. These kids don't stop playing. There's like, they down by 10 and there's like 5 seconds left and there's kids diving on a loose ball, and they playing for a check early, and having those D1 coaches sitting on the side with their little notebooks and stuff, I was like, it opened my eyes to how tough it was. So luckily I coached that age group, and I was able to kind of like make the adjustments early. But it is very different to the pro game.
So and all that stuff, now that you did that, and you're now coaching Surrey, and you've had some good years, and where did you get your philosophy? Because obviously every time you advance and get older as a coach, and you kind of tinker tailor, where do you think where do you find your philosophy coming from? Like, how have you honed the way you want to play as a team? Because you do a lot of 5-out, you do a lot of bit of dribble drive stuff. So where'd you pick that stuff from? How'd you decide where you wanted to go with your offense?
So a key part for me was, I said, like Tony Hansen being one of my mentors. Spent a little bit of time around Steve Bucknell also, and obviously Steve Bucknell, he brought a whole different, like he loved the North Carolina offense and how things worked on that. I got another coach that was in England, Jim Walsh. He also, started giving me his little bit of input and stuff and that there. But I had to adjust to, when you, as you know this, Atiba, and I don't know, you probably go through the same thing. When you're trying to recruit players and you don't have a big budget, you kind of like taking a chance sometimes on who you bring it in. And one of the toughest echoes is everybody needs something to progress. And so taking on the needs of 5 to 10 individuals who need to make up a team, the key part for me was, how do I keep everybody engaged and to buy in? And so that 5-out offense was something I had played as a player, looking at modern basketball and the way the BBL was, with not really having a post players of that you could regularly go to. That's how the 5-out came, and I thought it's the players coming in are pretty skilled. I also felt that a lot of Division I players that we'd get, you would never see their true skill set, because they were so almost robotically coached when they're in America to do a specific role. And I realized getting them in that they could do multidimensional stuff. And so I think that's how I ended up going into the 5-out. And then obviously, as you know, I like to play up tempo. So I'd always try and find a point guard that can push the ball up the floor. So my philosophy, I would say, that I tell all my guys is that the key part is nobody can achieve what they want to achieve without the other guy.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not going to allow him to do stuff, he can't achieve it. The same way you want to do something, it's not going to happen, you know. And sometimes you get those magical groups, you know. One thing that I've always like admired about your teams, though, that I'll ask you now is you've always somehow got good point guards. So is there a trick to that, or is it just because, like, I love the way your teams play, but it's very you get point guards and you actually get them to play selfless.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is a tough sell to these guys, because the agents are telling them, you got to score.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I have been lucky. I've had some really talented guys since I've been coaching. I think what I kind of do is I recruit. I don't recruit. I recruit for that. I recruit for someone that is unselfish. You know, the stats I look for, assist to turnover ratio, what that is. See, you know, those are like indicators, kind of. You know, you talk to coaches like you do. You talk, but that's more important to me than scoring. Is how they distribute the ball.
Yeah.
You know, you watch in film. You watch how the hockey assist and you know how they read the game, and it's the things they do without the ball that kind of tell more what a guy's like too. You know, you watch them watch their game, how they conduct themselves. They, you know, communicate when someone drops a good pass, what they do. You know, all those things we say. I really that's the main things I look for in my point guard, and then from there I kind of go back and then, okay, how's his free throw percentage, and then you kind of peel it back from there. But that's the starting point, and then, you know, I'm not always lucky, but for the most part. And a lot of times I let my point guards make mistakes and grow with me. So that's another thing. A lot of times it's not so much that they don't always start out well. It may not look like it does in preseason as it does, as you know. Preseason may come in nervous and tight, but I let them grow and let them make mistakes. I think eventually that pays off where guys feel more comfortable with me and they can play themselves more. So, I mean, I appreciate that compliment, because I think the point guards we have, I try to get the toughest guy. That's someone I don't want guarding me. That's how I look at it. I don't want this guy on me late in the game guarding me. That's why I want him on my team.
Yeah. No, I think you've had a few, and like I said to you, the brief chats that we're able to have before a game and stuff. The job you did with McKnight, for example, like, you know, he was just like a quarterback, just doing stuff, and then the dimension he brought to his game now, where he's shooting the ball well and so forth. You know, I, as a coach, I have nothing but respect for players developing and coaches that allow them to do that, because, you know, as you know, like, man, you have 2 bad games, that email box is full of the next best point guard that the agent can send you. Yeah. But you got to stick with.
Funny. You know, it is, because you have a player and you have a vision. You know the game from what you know, and you've got a vision of what they can do and how they can develop and how you can help them and how they can fit in your system. And then it's about, you know, if they buy into it, and if they don't buy into it, can you come to an agreement or find a, you know, a common space where you can see it working together? And I think Mackie and I definitely we had some teething issues over because you've been with about 2.5 years, and but we've come out better for it. So you gotta be, you know, as much as it's hard sometimes to give, because you know what you want to do and you know what you're doing is for the ultimate good of the team. There's no selfishness in what you're trying to achieve as a coach. But it's sometimes as a player, they're young, they're hot-headed. I just got to put myself in their shoes and say, okay, let me just slow down and let me just try this again. Let me try this approach differently and see if it works this way.
I'll tell you a story about, like, one of the players that you had, and it was funny because I had Josh Steele, who was at Duquesne with Rennie Castro that you had, and I liked Rennie Castro. I really liked him, like, but I thought he was more into my, you know, fitting my offense a little bit more than yours. But I could see the skill set, like the skill set was there. And speaking to Josh, I'm like, hey, listen, man, you need to tell your boy to run that team. Atiba likes point guards to run the team. And he's like, nah, he's okay, cool. I said, no, I'm just telling you, like, and I remember bumping into, I think we were at the All-Stars. And after a game, I said, hey, man, run the team. Don't worry about your buckets, just run the team. And then obviously you made a move, and when you made the change, you guys started playing a whole lot better, you know. And so it was an interesting one because I really liked him also. Like, really Castro. I thought he was a really good player, but it just never
good.
seemed like, to me, it never like seemed like your kind of point guard.
Yeah, I think that year he got a little bit of an unlucky break just because how the team was comprised. It wasn't necessarily his fault. You try to recruit, like you said, within budget and try to maximize it. And I think he might have got caught up a little bit with the dynamic of the team. Didn't really fit how he wanted to play the best way he wanted to. He was a great kid, man. I really like Renee. He's and super talented. And a lot of times I've had guys and I tell them, and if they, stay solid, they'll get something better from it. It just wasn't the right situation for him. But he wasn't more of a scorer, but he was so young. And sometimes when they come fresh out of college, like they don't want to run the team because they think it's going to somehow affect either their next job, or when we lose, I'll look at them and say, oh, you only had 10 points. And I'm not like that. I don't even look at stats most of the time. That's it, other than like rebounds, turnovers, and that's about it really. Rebounds, turnovers, and assists. And outside of that, I look at stats after I watch the film back and I break it all down. Then I'll look back and reference stats. So, but when you're young and you're 21, 22, and you're trying to, he's got talent to play top league Europe. He's trying to make it all happen then and there. And sometimes it didn't just fit. But yeah, you're right though. It was a little bit of that.
Yeah. No, but props to you and your point guards. I'll get you to pick my one this year if I have to make a change.
No, you have a lot of talent, and it's kind of sometimes I don't know how you manage all that talent. Sometimes you have down there. You got so much. You bring in good quality Americans. You've got Teo. You've got Caitlin, and you've got even Henry now stepped up. He's playing much better now. He's kind of. I didn't really plan for him like 3 years ago. Maybe now I've got to really watch him and cue him up. And then you got these guys coming in random. That's just like, how's he gonna make all this work? How's your week look when you see that happening?
So, one of the good things that, I don't think there's anything good that's come out of this virus, but the time that you've had to like sit, I've sat down, reflected, self-critique, looked back at game film and looked at stuff. And one of the things I've always done with the budget I have is try to have, we train in the mornings like most teams do, is to have a squad of players because it's so difficult to practice with 9 or 8 or 7. And so that's why, like, instead of focusing on spending a lot of money on one player, I've always tried to like spread it around. And it starts off with, like you said, those conversations where guys want to just get involved and want to do stuff, and they say all the right things. And then as we get going, it's like, man, coach, my agent's in my ear and he's saying that, it's this and so forth. And some agents are good. Some agents, once they sign that little agent fee, I don't hear from them. As soon as a guy has a big game, I hear from him. But when the guy's playing bad, you don't hear anything from those guys. So I've been fortunate that, like, I think my people skills in the sense of talking to a guy and saying, look, this is what we're going to do. I can't tell you you're going to be a better person, you're going to be a better player and so forth by the time you leave me. Sometimes guys enjoy that. And I try as hard as I can, Atiba, to paint the picture to exactly what it's going to be, from the house to everything, When I had Tony Hicks that one year, the interesting part about Tony Hicks was he was asking me to give him an opportunity.
Yeah.
And the reason, and I liked him from the word go, because I like quick gut, and he is making the transition. But the part that for me that scared me a little bit was he is coming from Louisville. And so one of my big conversations I had with him on a regular basis is like, I'm like, Tony, we got this really nice venue. And when you go out the door, there's some squash courts. And you go down about 4 steps of the squash courts. And on your right, there's a water fountain. And you got to take your water bottle there and fill your water bottle and bring it back quickly. He's like, what you saying, coach? I said, man, I know at Louisville how they look after you. I'm just trying to set the picture for you so you know I ain't getting you water at practice. We got Angus for the games, but it's not going to happen. So I don't like, the last thing I want is having a player come in and it's just like a shock to them. Year one, I had a guy, Desmond Lee, came out of NC State. He played 2 games. I was so excited. Those stories where you see a guy in practice and you go like, oh, wow.
I got it. I got one.
But yeah, I got one. But in my head, I'm still going, NC State. Played 2 games at Atiba, never heard from him. I'm like, where's this guy? He ain't answering his phone. Next thing, phone ring, WhatsApp call. Hey, coach, you're a good person. I just want to apologize, man. I'm sorry I couldn't do it. I'm like, what's up? What's up, Desmond? You okay? It's like, yeah, I had to come home. He called me from America. He jumped on a plane. He went back to America. I said, what's wrong? He said, man, coach, there was, it's like, I just couldn't adjust, coach. I was like, wow, and so from that point, when it came to that,
kind of push you on your back, in your heels a little bit, and kind of apprehensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
they're
spoiled over there in American culture, which is not, it is what it is. It's the way the sport is in America. There's so much funding, money, and the better they perform, the better universities, the money they receive, and all that stuff. So it makes sense, but it takes a player that has the right vision and goals and understands what they're doing it for, that can play anywhere, can play in a shoebox if they had to reach the next level. And when you do find all that combined, then you got a guy that's gonna
definitely
be a bright future.
But
you never know till they get here and they fly home.
Hey, before that first conversation's great. Yes, sir. No, sir. No problem, coach. Yeah, I'm ready, coach. I'm like, okay. So that was a crazy one.
Saying the same thing. He said he was telling everybody, tell the guys everything they need to know, every single thing they're gonna deal, and the coaching and all that stuff. For me, I always I came overseas when I was in college. I worked in family services in the summers and on the weekends while I played. Not because I was business management, but I did it as my job, and I enjoyed it. So I always kind of never had an issue with that. So for me, it wasn't an adjustment at all. But other guys, they just want to be Xbox and eat and play, and that's all I want to do. I don't do nothing else. So
it's tough though. I mean, like you've been through this, like Atiba, like going back to like Tony Hicks. Tony Hicks spent a lot of time with Donovan Mitchell when they went Louisville. And then he's been drafted to play top 10 pick, going to play for the Utah Jazz, and Tony Hicks, who also had a good a couple of years at Penn, and then transferred. He's coming off an injury, and so I used to watch his body language when people were like, man, did you see what Mitchell did last night? And I'd see like Tony was like happy for him, but like it was it's almost like, oh, he's there and I'm just trying to get this grind going. So and that happens to so many of these guys, as that are their friends are in the NBA. So
I mean, the guy I've talked about before on this is Mike Cook. Came in, he was playing on that team for Pitt. That was, I think, 2 or 3 of the guys went to the league, and he was cusp of it, and blew his knee out against Duke. So mentally, it's. I mean, that's tough. You're hard to blow your knee in any kind of situation, but when you're on that road and you're around that kind of people, an injury. The sport in general, the mental toughness is underestimated. How mentally tough you need to be at every level to really compete and excel.
And to get here, like the journeys these guys you've been on. Sometimes people don't realize that, what we've been through. Like I always laugh about the stuff that I went through. Like I slipped under buses, like we were at the national team, because our training base was at the Army base, and we get there late. They said, like, you're not going in. This is the Army base. So like we on the truck, on a bus, like and just endless stories about that.
So I got some a lot to ask you. One thing that is very interesting. I always seem to talk to coaches about this. I don't know if I have this issue, but I always think it's good to ask coaches that coach their own kid. So I had my high school coach. He coached his son, and there used to be stories where he would have a timeout and he'd pull him off the court by his ear, and it'd be like when he got home, he had to sleep on the couch because the missus was mad at him and stuff like that. Obviously, that's high school, so you get away with a little more stuff, and that's back in the day. Couldn't do that stuff now. But so for you, how do you find that challenge? I know he has it challenging as well. The other side of the coin is people not thinking he is good enough or not as good, but he can play, and he's doing a good job for you. So how's that dynamic, and how do you deal with that?
Tough one. So I played for my dad, and like you're saying, pulled by the ear, grabbed by the top, like, 1,000 eyes on you, and this man's like going mad at you, like wiping like spit off your face and stuff in that day. And so in Kalen's development, I was like, okay, I love my dad, and I understand why my dad pushed me and this old school that he came from. I was like, okay, I can't do that. So when Kalen was growing up, naturally his dad's a coach. Oh, no wonder Kalen's so good, but I can't take any credit for that. Because what I did was, I was like, I know what it's like. I wouldn't want to undermine any coach.
Yeah.
I would never do that. And so whenever I went to go watch him play, I would find a place where nobody could see me, where he couldn't see me, and I just watch, because I didn't want to be that guy like, you got to go, you got to do this. I'd let his coach do the stuff. And his mom was key, because his mom's the one that drove him around England and took him to where he is supposed to be. So I can't take any credit for that. But fast forwarding, when he first played for me, we had we were called the Surrey Heat at the time, and I think you remember I had the Holmes twins. So I had the Holmes twins and Frank Holmes, and I think we finished top 4 that season. Was a pretty solid team.
Was that the year you made the trophy final?
No, that was the first year, but that season we finished top 4, and I think we made the second round of the playoffs or something. But anyway, he had come back from America and didn't want to go back. And so he had agreed as a family he could have a gap year playing basketball. Right. Anyway, he's on the team training with us and doing stuff. And I had Julius Joseph on the team also. And Kalen be doing good at practice and so forth. And then we go down with injuries. So I got to throw Kalen in the game. He plays well. And then so now it's like, I got the captain saying, like, stop treating him like your son. He's a player on the team. You got to play him. So that kind of like made it a little bit easier. Getting him going. Then I had the owner at the time was Alison Reeve. She called me in the office and told me, like, if you don't start playing your son, there's going to be a problem. And I'm like, hold up, like, because she felt he was like a little fan favorite. And
if you don't start playing him.
Yeah, if I don't stop playing him, it's going to be a problem. I'm like, Kalen knows what's going on here. Anyway, he got fully into the rotation and it did really well. And stuff that I've heard, like Fab talk about, Finch talk about, all the different people spoke about, the man management becomes a really tough one for everybody because not everybody's the same. And so with him, I've got into it with him a couple of times, but I've had to separate it from what's best for the team. Now, I will say this, I have watched film back and there's times where I probably should have left him in the game. And I took him out to protect him, which I shouldn't have done. Now, in the early days, I was like, okay, who's our best 3-point shooter right now? Okay, what, even if he's going to be a decoy or so forth. And I've taken him out, even from a defensive point of view, I've like gone like, is he hurting us? And then I've watched and it's like, no, he wasn't hurting us, but I had this perception in my head. So it's not an easy one. And as you said, and then there's the other part where my protection is like, are people thinking he's playing because I'm his dad? Whereas I think he's a super talent. I think because my dad pushed me, I might have done something wrong there where I didn't want to push him, because if I had pushed him, it would have made a bigger difference in where he got to. I was kind of like, all right, Kay, what you want to do? You want to do this? Oh, okay, let's do it. And so I watch him, and then the part what happened is when he's locked in, Atiba, he's working out. He's in the weight room. He's working out. He's shooting. And then when he's not locked in, he's not doing that stuff, but he's still killing everybody and shooting. So I'm going like, son, like you got a God-given gift. Like, which one is it?
Some guys just got it.
Exactly. And so then at the point, I just kind of like take a backseat. But I think when I was happiest was when a couple of BBL teams liked what he was doing when he was younger, and then he ended up going to Worcester, and PJ really liked him and so forth. And PJ was like an NCAA Division I coach. He put his hand around Kalen, took him around the new complex. Kalen's like, I'm playing for PJ. I'm like, no, hey, PJ is a good guy, but you've got to go see this. Go see Gavin Love in Plymouth. You know, I want you to go see Atiba in Sheffield. I want you to go just try out all these places. Like, no, hey, you know, this is going to happen. You know, and he went there, and he's basketball was good. He learned a lot. You know, he was there with Zahir Taylor and so forth, Alex Awumi. So it all helped with his development. But that to me, I was happy that he managed to make a name for himself. Just, you know,
separate. It stood up. And now when he's back, when you do what you do and how you play him, it's proven it's not just a dad giving a guy a minute, or giving us some minutes.
Yes,
he's earned the stripes.
Definitely. So yeah, but still, man, hey, jumping in a car with the guy, you know, finally when he started driving, I was like, okay, I don't need to hear this guy sulking in the car with me, or like, you know, and you know how players are, you know, like we win a game, and he never played that or contributed the way he wants to contribute. So now I'm happy. I'm like, yeah, man, we got this one. Then I got my son not talking to me. So I'm like, how am I supposed to win? Like, you know? And then he's like, hey, Dad, you did a great, you know, he's very mature, and he's got a great pass from. He's like, hey, you did your thing, but just leave me, you know? I'm happy that we won, but I'm a player.
And that would be the same with any player. You don't have to see it and be in your face, because I'm sure every guy on your bench, you might win, they didn't play a lot. They fight for the same way. You just don't see them till Monday, whatever it is, and it's kind of water under the bridge.
Yeah. I think it's a tough one, and you know, I watch, you know, like I've seen other dads who've played the game just let their sons also go through it and leave the coaches, and I've seen the other side of it where some dads who might not have played the game at high level, and you know, we walk in the car park and we hear the dad saying, "You should just shut the ball. You should have done this. You should have done this." And I always go like, "Whoa, that's a tough ride home right now. That's gonna be a tough ride for this kid." But that's that. I guess that's the beauty of the game. There's always going to be 5 different ways to do something.
Yeah. So this coaching thing, you've been at it a while. What's your favorite element of coaching? What do you enjoy most? What do you love about it?
For me, it became the just being on a basketball court is kind of like my life in a sense. You know, when I was 14 years old in Zimbabwe, my teacher told me to start playing basketball in my books, pretend I'm playing basketball in my books, because I'm never going to get a job in basketball. And that was obviously because of the way Zimbabwe was. So he was like, and obviously, so fast forward, and you know, where I am now, I'm like, wow, you know, but I never lost focus on my schoolwork. I still did my schoolwork. So helping guys get to a certain point has always been a drive that I've done, and I felt that the better I can make each person and each player, the better the team is going to be. On reflection of that, and going back to, like you've said, when I've got all this talent together and trying to make it work, I realize now going into a new season, I'm probably going to take less. I'm going to have less bodies so that guys can focus on particular roles, because I want people to reach their goals. You know, a lot of fans, you know, BBL, we do a great job, and fans watch us, you know, like you guys taking the game back to Ponds Forge, great atmosphere. And, you know, I've had fans come to me, Atiba, grown men, you know, and I love the fans, you know, and ask me, you know, am I driving the Ferrari that's parked in the front there, or is it Tails? And I'm like, so the perception that there's that money flying around is a big thing, and we want to have that because each club puts on such a great show. And so the tough part that I find sometimes adjusting to is I don't want to be competitive anymore. I want to win one also. That's my number one thing that I'd like to do now. Before I'd be like, okay, we'll be competitive, but I want to win one. So the part is trying to win one while trying to help these guys on their journey, because you know how it is. Some teams sometimes can just throw the money at the players, and then there's not much you can do about it. It's just, you know, one of my favorite players I've coached that kind of like shows what my coaching philosophy is and has been Jordan Williams.
Okay.
And I got Jordan Williams really young, and a lot of people are like, oh, Jordan, you don't know. And I managed to build a relationship with Jordan. I speak to him on on a daily basis. And so when I see him playing at Worcester now, and they win a cup, a trophy, some silverware, I'm like, man, all that work I put into Jordan, and he goes and gets some silverware over there. But I got to be happy for him, And I think a lot of people don't understand that sometimes it's not that these guys want to like leave, they sometimes need to support their families and need to make decisions, which brings me to one of my questions for you while we're on this. Was you had Dirk, and that to me was an illustration of how players end up looking up to coaches. Like, we're not just coaches sometimes, because he felt so comfortable with you. Some people might not know this, but a lot of people in the basketball world knew NBA teams were looking at this guy. But he felt he was most comfortable, and his game and development as a pro was better under your guidance. How did you feel about that when you see him being interviewed and saying those things?
I think Dirk is his talent. He's an incredible talent. He's we've had some really great shooters, and with his size and athleticism, he's got to be tops, because how quick he can get a shot off and shoot over people, mid-range and three. Dirk was a very, very mature guy in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, he was immature. So his basketball journey was a bit helter-skelter for one reason or another. Nothing to do with himself, but just kind of like a couple of AAU teams, and supposed to go to high school, and then he got made ineligible, so he didn't really get to get a high school year. So his basketball journey was a little bit hodgepodge as far as having consistent coach. And so he got to JUCO, and then he went to UAB and had 2 good years and was sixth man of the year. So he had the talent, just probably didn't have the level of kind of consistent coaching to kind of really feel developed in I think skill-wise, and drilling and all this stuff is there, but just putting it in a game format probably wasn't there for him consistently, or doing it in a way where he had the ball in his hand a lot, not just coming off the bench. So I think when he came to Sheffield and he had the ball, he was focal point of offense, and we would drill stuff, and I'd get on him and we watch film, and I don't think he had that level of probably communication with a coach and someone that actually was taking the time to correct and recorrect and recorrect and recorrect. And off the court, he has a missus and a beautiful child now. That was all probably part of his decision as well. But I think he made a very mature decision. And the funny thing is that when it came to the summertime, and I'm like, okay, because I got a call during the season from OKC saying, we're looking at Derek Williams, we're going to be at this game, that game. We think he's the best shooter in Europe. We want to bring him into summer league and all that stuff. So I didn't tell Dirk at the time. I just let it play out, so he didn't feel the extra pressure on him that no scouts there. And then in the season, he found out, and he had workouts and all that stuff. And this is where Dirk was kind of like very mature. Is he just said, I don't think I'm ready yet for this. Like I feel like I still need to develop. I'm not ready for what my agent is pushing me into. And I was like, well, yeah, but and he just was adamant that he's like, I'm just not ready. I want to come back and I want to get more reps in this situation. Like what we did and what we went through, really helped me. And I feel like I need another year of that before I feel confident. And one of the biggest things as a player, and what I experienced, is sometimes you get opportunity, and you want to take it so bad, and you just think, I don't know if I'm ready for you. You're nervous. Yeah. You're like, I'm not sure I'm ready for it, but I don't know if I'm gonna get this chance again. And to turn that down, that's like unheard of, really. He did the tryouts. They loved him. They loved him in the building. He went to some workouts. He was invited to summer league and stuff like that. And they loved him. He just was like, I want to keep honing my skills, and I'm not ready yet. And the agents are blowing my phone up. Like, what are you telling them? He has this. I'm like, if you don't stop calling my phone, you think I'm telling this kid not to go try to get an NBA? That would be the most. If I could do that, I need a new job selling anything else, selling bridges. Because if I could talk someone out of that, I'm not that convincing. But he just went, and I don't think he made the wrong decision. Because that's what he wanted to do for himself, and he's got better for it. He had a great year in Hungary this year, and I think he's still on the radar, and he just got to keep playing. But I don't honestly know. It's flat or not. That's what you want to do. You want to educate, and you want to make sure guys, like you said, leaving better than they started. I've had other guys like Gerald Brooks, who was He's an amazing talent. You know,
Yeah.
another guy that he actually had a year out where he didn't get a job, and he was just so hungry to play. When I got him, he was not really played the point a lot. Was a lot of two, and he played with Neil Watson actually at the point, so he played the two.
Yeah.
So when he got the ball in his hand here and he got reps, we talked. He was, you know, every morning he wanted to ask questions and talk. And he really, as the season went on, you just seen him slowly evolve into more of a one. And he was always kind of could score, but unselfish at the same time. And all the great characteristics of a point guard, just didn't really actually get reps in it. But I thought to him, I'm like, no, he wanted to come back. I'm like, you got to go. You got to go into Europe because he had issues at home and stuff that he needed to help take care of financially. And I thought, so he went to France and he's had a great career. But sometimes it's not me I'm not going to like stifle someone's development in any form or fashion. But with Dirk, it was just, he knew what he wanted. And I was, you know, I thought it was good for him to say that. We've had other issues in the season with Dirk. We had a slump a little bit his first year. And he said, he came to the office and was like, Coach, I think I should come off the bench. I think that would be good for the team that if I come off the bench. And I think it was might have been Zach. It was Zach Starks. I might get him something. And he's like, I did it in college. I'm good at it. And we did it, and we won another run. So that was
big time.
Was that after the trophy or before the trophy? We made the trophy final that year. So you know, I didn't tell the kid to say that. He's just, you know, he's mature in a lot of ways, and then just his actual basketball experience was probably just shy under where his talent was. So he just needed more reps. So but it's just you never know. You never know. You never know. You recruit a guy, you just don't know what you're gonna get. So
definitely. But those are the good stories about you know, when you get these kids and you know, their lives at home sometimes are unbelievable. That people people sometimes don't get the insight into where it's come from and stuff, and that for a lot of them, you know. So I always find that that if people ask questions, they might get the answers, because that's one of the toughest things I find sometimes is the perception is not always the reality, and people always have this thing that Atiba didn't want that player, that's why he never came back. Creon didn't want that player, he didn't want to bring him back. You know, it's like, no, I was paying X amount and he wanted 5 times that amount, and I couldn't do it. So.
I wish it was that simple, right? You wish you could just, you know, I want you.
Yeah, exactly.
Wish it was that simple.
I know, and also add a little like, and I want you for 2 years, so you can go for 2 years. That would be great.
When you have a great year, it's like you might be able to keep one. So you guys, keep that in mind. Fans. But no, so okay, so that's enjoying. What about some of the struggles? What are some of the difficulties that you find with coaching? I think coaching is a very, very it's a unique profession where it's such highs and lows. You're worried. You never really switch off from coaching. You never switch off. You go from season where you're worried about actual performance, and off season you're worried about the next season, who you're going to be coaching the next season, and it doesn't stop. And it doesn't stop. And you get, for me, it's like you can take time off, but you become a weaker coach if you're not watching film all day, or you're not putting the time in to recruit. I'm sorry, to what's the word I'm looking for? To prep for the games. So if you don't put the time in for that, you can take time off, but then you're not going to be prepared for when the game time. So you get what you want, but if you want to be great, you have to you don't have much time to just be off. That's some of my struggles.
I agree with those, and I'll add quite a few in the sense of, like we spoke about, we don't get a chance to talk as coaches. Mm-hmm. And we competing, we're in the same league, but we don't have any ill feelings towards each other and stuff. It's just like, you know, like I said, you come to Surrey, you're going back to Sheffield that night, so you're not staying in a hotel locally where I can say, oh, hey, Atiba, let me take you for a meal, let's pop a bottle of wine, let's have a chat about stuff and so forth. We don't get to do that, whereas in other leagues they might have that luxury. So the part for me is, I think it's a really lonely thing being a head coach. I think it's like really, really lonely. And I don't think people understand that. You know, you got the pressure of trying to keep all your players happy, which is number one, because if you keep that team chemistry great, then the team is going to do really good. And you can't lose sight of the fans, you know, And I think you got different levels of fans. You know, I always tell people one of the things that I do is when we win a game, I'm out of there. I'm like, I'm gone. I'm going to the change room because the players won the game.
Yeah,
You know,
let them have
that
that.
player was great and so forth and stuff. When you lose a game, you know, the coach never took this guy in. The coach never did that. The coach never did that. So when we lose a game, I always stick around. And then I look into the crowd and I kind of like see, okay, in my person, I'm like, okay, those are the diehard like fans that I can see because we human, you know, and we got to deal with social media. So I'm not on social media, but I know what gets said on social media because my family has to read it. So when people are trying to go at me, they don't understand that this person is reading it and that person that's close to me is reading it, you know. And then I got to tell my family, I got to tell my friends, I got to tell you, like, no, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, you know. That's just how it is. And so sometimes where we get portrayed as these guys that coach is so arrogant. He doesn't smile. He doesn't even greet. He doesn't acknowledge because like we've got to have some form of a defensive mechanism because I'm going to smile. Hey, what's up? And then tonight you're going to go on some social media platform and you're really going to kill me, not understanding everything that I'm going through and trying to do to win, you know. And I accept that, you know, that's the part of being a coach. We there to win games. And as I said to you, I think in the past, I focus a lot on being competitive. I focus on different aspects of the club, which you do also. You know, I don't think all the coaches in the PBL do some of the stuff we do, being in the community, making sure this works, making sure that works, you know. And I've got to surround myself or allow the people around me to do more so I can focus on just coaching basketball, which is something I've taken, you know, out of this. So for me, I think another big thing is trust. You know, being with people. If you have, you know, trust in your management, then that can give you peace of mind to sleep good at night.
100%.
I went through that process. So I finished one of my best seasons at Surrey Heat, finished top 4. And then I walk into a meeting and the owner says to me, oh, Creon, do you know Jack? You know, and I knew Jack Majeski really well. My son had played for him and everything, and I'd helped Jack out. We'd work together. Jack's bought the club. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, Jack, am I coaching? Jack's like, no, Creon, I'm going to coach the team. I'm like, okay. Oh, Jack, do you need me to coach your academy team? No, Creon. So I said, oh, okay. And then so I said, turned to Alice and the owner at the time. I'm like, right, so I got 2 years left on my contract. What's the deal? Oh, we should talk. I said, talk. I said, oh, okay. Anyway, I'm out of here. And I went walking. She came after me, apologized. I said, look, I just had a good season. We're talking about building on this, and we're about to go. I'm telling you, I got a couple of offers. I turned them down because you said we're doing this. And then she's very apologetic about it, you know, and obviously people got in stuff and then the lawyers get involved and they're like, oh, and I didn't want to be the bad guy at Atiba, you know, so I had 2 years left on my contract, 2 years, and I walked away from it with about 2,000 pounds because I didn't want to be the bad guy because I love basketball so much. So when I got back into the Surrey franchise, Gavin Baker, who's the managing director at Surrey Sports Park, he had a conversation with me and he was like, you know, it looks like we're going to be taking over the franchise and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, well, if you take over the franchise, we'll have a conversation and we'll see how it is. And then they took over the franchise and I sat with him and I said, handshake, and we discussed it and said, I will try and win as much as I possibly can, but it's going to take time and so forth. And so because I built up that trust, that was enough for me because I've had a contract and the contract did nothing for me. So I think trust is such a big thing that just having the right network around you becomes so important because, you know, dealing with the players, dealing with agents, dealing with, you know, it is a grind.
I definitely fell into a great situation as far as my first time coaching, 26 years old, player coach, and Sheffield. Sarah's been there, done that. One with Chris Finch, had success with Pete. They really schooled me and got me to like the point where I felt comfortable to make, because at first at 20, I mean, I barely was like, out of college. So I had no confidence in decisions. I had no confidence in the system. I had no confidence in what I was going to do.
So before you carry on answering that, because as I said to you, I had some questions for you.
Okay.
So from my point of view, the Surrey Scorchers have an interesting history, being Thames Valley Tigers, becoming Guildford Heat. So, really, really good coaches like Mick Betts, obviously PJ and so forth have gone and they've won, and not taking anything away from them. They are very, 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 very good coaches. Their budgets were a little different to the budgets that I'm working with right now, although some fans still have the same expectations, which is only natural. I was looking at your guys and the history of Sheffield, which is a really strong one, and over the years, like watching. So when you won your first one, I was like so happy for you. I was like, man, that's absolutely great. Because I was like, boy, man, Chris Finch, this guy in the NBA now, Coach GB at the Olympics. Like Nick Nurse's come through. This guy's gone through there. Scans came through there, and so how did you deal with that, knowing that that's always going to be behind you, is the strong history of that Sharks organization, until you obviously got your first one, because that's kind of like a tick box, and I know you're driven to win more.
No, I definitely, the first one was important. Obviously, that was my second season, so I was blessed enough to get it pretty soon after I started. I always laugh about that. I always say, Chris in those years, I can't compete with that, man. This is, no matter what I do, no matter how much. I mean, I'm not going to say that because I haven't won to the level yet. I'm not going to say that like I should be, because they've done and won. Chris won more than me, and he deserves everything and all that praise. But the nostalgia of it and the local makeup of that team, there was a fabric of a lot of Sheffield basketball still now. They still have their, whether it's coaching kids in it at a level they're playing. So that whole era of with Chris Finch is like probably the golden era of Sharks. I don't think it'll ever be really, well, not anytime soon, upseated, because it's just so special. And Chris went on to just do amazing thing after year. But I don't really, I try not to compete. I try not to think of it like that. I think I'm very, very insular, and it's kind of a good thing for me in this possession. I think people get the wrong impression of me. I'm a introvert. I'm really shy. I don't like big crowds. I'm not like that kind of person. So it's funny when you say people think, expect, or they see you and expect you to be a certain way, and you're not. I don't like talking. I'm shy. I'd rather go home and be. So that kind of probably helps me with, as far as I just focus on my job and my task, and every year it's my year, and I put everything I can think of, and I try to really plan as best as I can, and like what we said, management, we work together really closely, and we construct kind of, okay, here's where we are, here's the budget we have, here's what our goals can be. If we can get this, that'll be amazing. We're probably here on the table realistically, but if we can punch above that and aim for silverware. So I have a very clear remit of what I'm trying to achieve. And then from there, it's just about staying insular and not trying to, fall apart when there's losses or turmoil in the team. So the past, I watch the game sometimes. I just kind of, I like to see what was done then, the guys there, and what happened. And, there was a lot of talent in the league then, and there's still a lot of talent now, but you can't compete with nostalgia sometimes. There's a level of fans that I will never, no matter what I do. If I say before burning building, they would have said Chris Finch would have done it much quicker than you two, but he would have.
I know what you're saying.
And obviously, because he's a great coach, so I'm all right with that. I have no. I'm happy to be a part of when it's all said and done. Hopefully, I still have something that I've contributed to the history of the Sharks, and I brought silver here. So
100%.
I'm adding my part.
Yeah, I appreciate. I feel that, and one of the I spoke to, who was it? I sent a message when Fab moved on. I was like, thank God you're gone, man. Give some other people a chance. Nah, I was like, hey, great to see that you've gone to Toronto and so forth and stuff. And he sent me a message, and it kind of like, as I said, like this can be like a really lonely world, you know. And so for a guy that's probably one of our winningest coaches in BBL history, you know, he sent me a message and he said, look, like, you do a great job and you know how to coach, and you changing a lot of young men's lives, you know, and I've seen people come to you and improve over the course of the season, you know. So sometimes we don't always get the championship, but there's something else that's been done. But the drive is still to get a championship. The drive is still to try and get our fans to the O2 Arena or to the NIA and so forth. But it's always going to be tough when people are still in the past. And as I always say, like, the perception and the understanding sometimes is they don't know what, you know, they don't know what the grind is, you know.
I always look at it like this too. There's a bunch of people now that's watching you that's maybe young and fresh, and in 10, 15 years they'll remember you like they remember, you know what I mean? It'll be a new crowd of people that look at you. So I always keep that in mind too. Like, I'm just not some people's, I'm not some people's book. You know what I mean? So
no, definitely.
You know, as long as they come to the game, whether they cheer me or boo me, whatever, as long as they come and pay admission, I'm all right with that and keep the club going and show support.
Definitely. Well, depending on what goes on, we'll need them to be buying paying for the games on YouTube or something, and that they're you know. But hopefully we can get through that. Yeah.
No, it's So let's talk a little bit more in detail about this last season, which was first off the new format. I mean, one thing about Surrey, you guys have some exciting games on there. You guys seem to have some nail biters. You got every like really close to the wire. Buzz was I think it was you guys were in them.
Yeah, it's tough. So this past season was, I'll use the word different. I think it was something like we finished with like a 4-6 or a 3-7 record in the cup. 6 of our losses were by 7 points or less.
Yeah.
And I could pinpoint where we went wrong. And so because of that, it was like, okay, I need to make some changes, which I felt a little bad about because, you know, some guys were doing a specific role, but I felt I needed to energize things and do something a little different. And when we did that, it did kind of like help us pick up to get to a certain point. But I think our fans, because of how compact our venue is, it's a really loud venue, and I think players enjoy it. Yeah, it's a tough place to play, but as you know, having played it, but those are the venues that players like to play in. It's like this is going to be loud. It's going to be like this. If we can make them keep quiet, that's going to be great. So it's a lovely facility, and other players get motivated to be in there. I think as the season was going along and we made those changes, we went through a little bit of a dark patch again, and then I think that we were going to come right. You know, we beat Lions in the last game before we got into the COVID thing. Obviously, Lions were without a key player in Justin, but still a very good squad of players that they had. And we got a good win against them. Matthew had come back. Matthew was supposed to go play in the NBA Africa League. And so that's why we got him back. And something that other people never knew was that I'm very close with Andrew Lawrence. And Andrew Lawrence had decided at the time in the year that he'd rather stay in England than go into Europe. So that following week, I was about to go like, I got a point guard. I got Andrew Lawrence now. And so I felt that we were good for an 8th or 7th spot in that playoff run. But that wasn't to be. But yeah, making changes is tough. You know, some of the guys I brought in have been great. I'm not saying it was their fault. Like I brought in Ryan Richards. Once again, another thing where, you know, just by having good relationships with these guys, they were willing to sign short-term deals for way less money than they used to playing for.
How does that affect the dynamic of the locker room and stuff when you sign those kind of big name guys that are short-term?
I think it definitely affects the locker room because it takes time because you know, I think that the group that we had were very, very, very good guy, but in today's society and the way people are, if I'm doing good, then I'm okay, as long as this doesn't affect what I'm doing. And as I say, when Ryan came in, he said straight away, like, I don't need to start. I'm just here to help you, coach. I'm trying to build up my fitness and get right and so forth. And then when they realized that, we played a couple of good games with Ryan in the lineup. And then the same thing when Matthew came in. But they are personalities, and they are strong figures. So when Matthew had left the first time, I was almost like, you know what, I can't do this, because I can see the effect it's happening on the guys, and I prefer to. So I had to speak to people. One of our guys that's been great for us this year was Skylar White, and it kind of like affected him to a certain point. So before we went back down with Matthew, I was like, Skylar, what's the deal? And then he was like, look, I saw what Matthew brings to the team, so I'm good if we need Matthew, because I needed a big, after Geddes played against Geddes, and we played against Amir Williams, Leicester. I was like, man, everybody got, like, you had a good center also. I was like, man, the BBL is making strides now. You have to get a center. So wasn't easy, but I do believe that missing link was Uno was great for us. Don't get me wrong. Devontavious, I thought he was super athletic. And he's another one that was helping transition from being a 2 to becoming a natural 1. Although it ended up, he played better with Kalen on the floor, because then he was at the 2 spot. So when Andrew Lawrence was training with us, my eyes kind of lit up, and like, okay, we're gonna sneak this year. We're gonna get the wins we need, and whoever's number 1's not gonna want to see us. So for me personally, it was an up and down season. I guess it just the teams that managed to get the silverware, when they did get the silverware, good for them. But it's all focus now is on whatever's going to happen down the road.
What was we had this question with a lot of the guys from the BBL this year. Who was the team that surprised you? What team surprised you this year when you kind of had? We know it's going to be different every year because everyone has pretty much a lot of new players and it's a little bit of a core. But what team do you see that go out? All right, I didn't see I didn't see that coming.
Okay. I think the Worcester Wolves is a very good organization. The way they got it running, they get a lot of backing, so they're able to get some good players. And so I think Matt Newby did a great job with the talent that he brought in. So I never expected them to hit the floor running the way they did. And credit to Matt. Having Kofi with some BBL experience, Raheem had BBL experience, and obviously Jordan had a couple of years BBL experience. He recruited, and look, we're all good at recruiting, but sometimes you luck out, and he lucked out in every single part. When I say lucked out, he got it right in every single position. I felt that Hughes was brilliant at his position that he brought in, playing that 3 spot. Cortez Edwards as a pickup of the season, like he just made bucks. I
remember seeing that in the summer thinking, ooh, that's a good one. When I saw him sign, I was like, okay, let's watch this film. I was like, ooh, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, so getting Cortez, what's his name, Matthew, the captain, the Dutch point guard.
Yeah,
he made some big shots in some crucial games. I think they also had the Dutch forward that was pretty
he
solid.
He came late, didn't he? I don't know where they just pulled him out of. That was
and then obviously Amir Williams was a player I would have dreamed of signing, because when I got offered him, I was like, no, he's not coming. And I'm like, what? He's going to the BBL? But yeah, so I think that was one team, and I guess it was because I think Matt's done a great job coaching, but I don't think he's ever had the tools for the players to put his coaching style into play, and now he had it, and he made took full advantage of that. With you guys, I felt that I know you guys always come right, and the part that always amazes me about you guys is, for anybody, it can be a up and down thing, but sometimes you make adjustments without changing players, which is absolutely great. Like I think like how you referenced Dirk saying let me come off the bench, and having selfless people willing to do that, I think is
it doesn't happen very often. Let me tell you.
No.
I wish it was that easy all the time, but a lot of times
it does not happen at all. So exactly. So I think that we competed with a lot of teams. I felt Lavelle Cook coming in for us was big time for us in what he brought to the team. But we had good balance. We ended up with some good balance. We just but we're unlucky in certain situations. So Worcester for me would be my team that kind of like surprised and went above what I thought they would. For just nothing against them, but just the fact that they managed to get it together and get some silverware.
Who'd you have done as your MVP of the season to where the point it got to? Who'd you think was the MVP outside of your team? You don't no one from your team.
Okay, so I put names down when I was thinking about this and said Lions. So I had a couple of options.
Me?
Lions. I had Atiba. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I was thinking about suiting up next year. I don't know.
Yeah, Justin at Lions. I thought Cartwright was great at Phoenix. Jamal was my pick from the Riders. The Jones brothers helped keep the Giants together in a tough season. Fletcher ever stay at Eagles. I think, Gettys was big, but I felt Fletcher was still the guy. Hassan put up big numbers again at Raiders. They probably some problems there. Flyers, the two Thomas guys were tough for Flyers. And then after that, your guy, the guy that I loved was Cashel. I thought he he was different. He was a great pickup for you guys. But I had two guys that stood out for me that were unsung hero. Probably wouldn't get the MVP award, but that was Pryor at Glasgow. Right. I thought Pryor stepped up big time for the Glasgow Rocks. And then obviously Coaches Edwards that we spoke about. Yeah. I thought that thing. But I'm old school. I'm like, whoever wins it in the end, that's who's going to get my vote. So depending upon what was going to happen at the end, I think the two front runners at that point was going to be Robert Justin again and probably Pryor because depending upon what happened with Glasgow. I saw something on social media that they were champions or they crowned themselves champions. Now I'm choking Glasgow.
Yeah, we champions too. We're champions South Yorkshire. South Yorkshire with a champ. Raining.
So MVP, a tough one. I think that Coaches Edwards was big time for Worcester, and I think that Pryor, and not taking anything away from Ali Fraser, and obviously, and then you need those guys like Murray. I think Murray's game also.
Murray's
was comfortable.
He's I didn't see him. I played against him when he was younger, and he's not that much different in age, but he's consistently gotten better and better every year. Even now, I still think he's really improved his game, which is, at his age, he doesn't look like he's slowing down. He's still in great shape. And I think if he can keep that going for another couple years, he'll be really blessed to do that because it's not often that happens. He can hit that.
Definitely.
He didn't hit that cliff kind of a lot of people hit at 30, 31. He's still getting better and he's shooting the ball well. It looks fresh. So they've got a lot of good returning guys as far as that are local.
I think that Glasgow are good in the sense that they got that nice little core of Scottish guys. And I think that helps a lot. But they had a good squad this year, great balance. So I got one. Hold up, I got one question for you before you end this year. So when
I got a couple more, but go ahead. I got a couple more.
Okay, my big question for you was going to be, what is Mike Tuck to you? And in terms of your coaching and so forth, can you imagine a team without Mike Tuck?
Mike Tuck has been with me since year 2 of coaching. Mike Tuck he's just so consistent. He's consistent in the way, and he's so skilled and talented finishing. Such a great finisher, soft touch. He shoots the ball well, but he just has that relentless energy. Probably one of the best things that's not like a noticeable thing is his lungs. The way he runs like for his size, he just doesn't stop running. It's crazy whenever I say that about Tuck because you don't look at him and think that about him, but he's got great lungs, runs the floor well, and then finishes well in traffic. What he means to me, he's probably a security blanket for me, really, I think, at this point. he's a comfort blanket for me in the sense that I know I can rely on him. I know that there's gonna be times where I blow him out, and he's gonna be all right with it. He's gonna just be like this the whole time. There's gonna be times where I lean on him and we ask him questions and talk to him about things. There'll be times when I kind of put him in the you go talk to the team and get him going, or good cop, bad cop in the sense of you. I'm always the bad cop, but go in there and you have a word first because I'm coming after and it's not gonna be pretty. So that's I think Tuck he's been an amazing kind of just statesman for the Sharks, the club. He's done an amazing job how he carries himself and pushes the club and represents what we want to represent, what we would like to represent as an organization. What I'll miss about him, or if I'll miss him, or can I imagine not having him, I'm going to try to keep him around in some capacity, but no, it'll be tough. It'll be a big loss because there's so many things that I probably don't even realize until he stops playing. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot of things that I'm like, damn. It's tough, when I need, when that day does come, I'll bet it's already worrying now, but when he's gone, there'll be even more things that I probably can't even think about now that I'll miss. But I know the main thing for me is just he's my guy that I know no matter what the situation, he's just steady. He doesn't, his emotions and his way he absorbs the good and the bad is steady. It's a steady head, calm head around the team. And for me, because he's been with me at my hot-headedest, and he'll tell me now, oh, you not as mad as you don't get as mad as you used to. Where guys be like, oh, Atiba lost. Like, you don't know when Atiba loses it. Not like what he used to back in the day. So it's not kind of nice when I have Tuck around and you're talking to, and I see the generation growing, and it's nice that he's my gap and my bridge to really to get to the team. So
I think that's big time because a key thing for a coach is having loyalty. Like the self-belief and sticking with a coach or a program and stuff. You don't hardly see that. Obviously I got Teo. I've had Teo for a number of years, and I'm sure same like Mike Tuck, he's had that option to go somewhere else and so forth, but he's felt like now we're doing something and if there's another motivating thing for me to win, it's obviously we won the BBL All-Star thing, which is nice to, it's a photo that's a life memory and stuff. But for him to win something, one of the other BBL competitions would be great for him to have that opportunity. So I respect a lot of those guys, and like Mike Tuck, the Kieran Acharas, obviously Gareth Murray, who's now there. Having those guys that stick around and show loyalty to coaches, to me, is a big thing.
Yes, it's. I never intended on being like a pro coach. That wasn't my ambition necessarily. But I always thought about coaching more at that grassroots level, and that kind of, that's more my nature, more what I'd be more, probably fulfilled with doing. If it wasn't outside of Sheffield, if I had to be cutthroat and be real cold about it, I wouldn't be successful, because I need to be able to be, to buy into people and they buy into me, and like most guys I usually sign, it's more than a couple of years. It's not many times outside of Americans, it's a Brit. Usually they stay with me for a few years. I don't think.
Yes, I've seen that.
So that's big for me, and I'm glad that I've been able to kind of keep that element of what I really like about coaching, because it is about mutual beneficial for both of us. I want what's best for you, so you want what's best for me, and then let's do it together. And you can't necessarily get that in 8 months. You have to know someone enough. They have to know you enough to get that, where you understand working separately but together at the same time. So definitely.
So you're off the hook now. That was the last question that I was going to hit you with.
Give me a heads up next time. No. So the last two questions I have really are talking points. Is one is we kind of touched it. I'm not sure we might have touched it in part of the answers, but just give me a more of a detailed response, really, as far as when young guys are developing in the UK. What advice do you have to them when they want to go to America or Spain? What do you see? What's the best advice? How should they approach and look at that kind of opportunity? Because you were probably the most unique person in the sense that you did go coaching AAU. You've seen those AAU tournaments with the top talent, and even a team of 6'2" guys are beating you with some of the most talented UK talent. So what is some of the advice you can give a young British player aspiring to make the next level?
I think obviously exposure is a big thing. You know, as I said, that was the idea of the AAU trips I did, was to show them what the talent levels were, and then take a step back and see if it's for you or if it's not for you. And then you end up on different paths. So like of the guys that I took, the 1 year I had Kofi Joseph. I took him, and I took Abodrin Olaseni, who was on the GB team, and their paths are kind of like different to where they've been, but they've ended up somewhere. I've always said to people that for junior players, coaching needs to be like an open book, and players are going to trust coaches. And there's a lot of really good young coaches in England. The part is that I will say is, so like when you spoke to Rob, they got Rob there. So Rob's been through it. So even if it's a young coach who hasn't been through everything, at least Rob's been there. I think a lot of British talent sometimes gets a lot of advice from people that haven't been on the journey. And so the kids are going to worship what their coach tells them. And I think that it's a duty on all of us as coaches, where, like you were talking about, Dirk, like, hey, man, you got to do what's best for you. That's an opportunity. You should go for it. We do that at pro level, and that's got to happen at a certain level. So I always look at that. So we got a ABL academy team, which is below EABL, which is the top one. But if I could get more players to come into our setup and rub shoulders with former Division 1 colleges and pro players, there's nothing better than that. There's absolutely nothing better than that. That's just my side of things. And America used to be the way to go, because America raised your stock to play in Europe. Now, I, as a coach, the first thing I'll do when I'm recruiting is I will look at who's got a British passport. But if they haven't played in a competitive American league, and all the leagues in American are competitive, but if I have a choice of somebody that was playing in the ACC or somebody that was playing in the lower league, I'm not even going to go down that far. And so sometimes I think you doing yourself an injustice by going somewhere, unless you just want that experience and you want to get away from home and so forth, because I feel that basketball's lifted over here. The university programs and leagues are a lot more competitive than they used to be. And obviously, training with BBL and professional players, there's nothing that can simulate that. There's zero, absolutely nothing that can simulate that. I know a lot of guys that have gone to America, lasted 1 year, and come back. You know, a lot of kids that's happened to. And I'm not saying that that's for everybody else. So I feel that, like, as us as coaches talking, I hope that at some point we'll get to a point where younger coaches are calling you, as they probably already are, and saying, hey, Coach Atiba, can I come to your session? Can I see what you're doing? And so forth and so forth. And they're like, I got this young guy, he's like this and so forth. And, you know, and give them the options, because sometimes they don't have that many options. So I think that local talent could do with being involved with the pro teams more. The doors are open. You know, there are those spots, and you know, if you're an England international, I'm going to give you a shot. You know, I'm not going to take you to sit on the bench. I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to help you get better. But hopefully we get to that point.
I find a lot of times in my experience that early on it'd be, you know, you get a lot of people, I want to come, I want to make it, okay, come to practice 8 o'clock. We train 8 to 10 sometimes, or 10 to 12. Come to training. Yeah, I'll be there. I promise I'll be there. And crickets. Or they come for 2-3 days, and it's like, the one I love is like, I for a while I was getting this one food poisoning, man. These guys, I don't know where they were eating. Every week. So I had 3 or 4 guys with a youth. When we were in Volvo Holland, we're not anymore, but we were in Volvo Holland, we would have the guys, I need you to come. Okay, you coming? Yeah. Oh, coach, I had some pizza last night and I got food poisoning. Like, what? You need to stop eating at that pizza place, because they must sprinkle food poison all their pizzas because
Yeah.
you got it 3 times
That's
a year.
a regular. That's definitely a regular.
I think a lot of times it's a case of, you're right, people don't really want it and they're trying to do things because for the look or whatever, and it's going to backfire on them. So when you go to across the water, you got to really have a good reason for it.
And when you go across, it's not like, so I've seen kids who from 13 to 18 have played for 5 different teams, because at age 13 on that team, they never played that much. Then they went to this team and then they played the good, it was all good, and then they weren't playing, then they went somewhere else. And so England, we've done a good thing of growing the sport, but everybody wants to play. At the elite level, it doesn't work that way. You know, professional players, I was listening to a podcast, All You Spoke, and they had Bradley Beal. And Bradley Beal agreed to go to Florida, and he said that Coach Billy Donovan said to him that, I can't promise you you're going to play, I can't promise you you're going to start, but I can promise you I'm going to make you a better person and a better player. And Bradley Beal chose to go there, you know. But I think that sometimes, you know, it's up to the coaches, because coaches in the junior levels, like, you know, with AAU, they have got the power. They've got the power to persuade these kids.
I've got a question sent in saying, what is the most important aspect of players' talent? Is it strong defense or strong scoring? Which one is most important to you?
Strong defense or strong scoring? I'll say that for majority of coaches, if you can't play a lick of defense, they're not going to want you on the team. So your defense is going to be of paramount importance, is that you know how to play defense. Guys there's been NBA players who couldn't score a lot, but were strong defenders, and then they could be trusted to do that. And so they were able to develop their games and grow and grow and grow. I remember bringing Teo as an example. Teo was my best defender, but Teo wasn't a 3-point threat. But over the years,
he grew up.
He grew and he added that. So I would choose a defensive thing. And when I look at you guys, when you won, when Fab and them have won, and Leicester have won, it's been defense. I can't remember in the latter part of the BBL teams that have just won by blowing out teams. It's been defense. Defense,
definitely. And the last one I have for you, I don't think we have any more coming in right now, but the last one I have for you is just what do you see as a pinnacle of your career? I've asked everyone that question. Like in your, you know, if you could write your story, a coaching story, what's the pinnacle for you?
The pinnacle, man. So it's a tough one. It's like, you know, as I said, my school teacher told me I'm never going to get a job in basketball. so kind of like living my dream, coaching basketball. Yeah. I've had opportunities and offers to go elsewhere, but I've always wanted to remain loyal. And so, you know, I think the pinnacle for me would be to eventually win a championship or two and leave on my terms, for, you know, be like, okay, I've done all I can, you know, and the Scorchers are right here now. I've everybody contributes, and I've also put a couple of my blocks into building this into something. And my inspiration, I won't lie to you now, is I know you guys is something that you're working on at Atiba also as an organization, is Newcastle Eagles and Leicester Riders have now set the bar in terms of having your own facility. So Surrey Scorchers do have their own facility, but it's a multi-use facility. So getting a facility that's like just basketball purpose would be one of the key things as a coach that I'd like to contribute to.
Right. That's great, man. Hey, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate talking to you. Thanks for taking the time out.
Yep.
Really enjoyed it. Again, let's, you know, keep this dialogue going now that we've cracked it open. Let's
definitely
stay in touch, keep talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Share ideas.
If there's any BBL owners out there listening to this, I just say to them, arrange some overnights so that coaches can share a steak and have a bottle of wine instead of traveling back on the same night.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Great talking to you. Good seeing you.
Appreciate you, man. Keep safe.
All right, man. You too.